Faith is not an intellectual pursuit. I'm going to repeat that. Faith is not an intellectual pursuit. The concept of Emunah is not an intellectual pursuit. It comes from Rod Lowe. This Rod Lowe is called the head that is not known. So it cannot be known in an intellectual manner. It's beyond that. And the concept that they associate with Rod Lowe is faith, Emunah. And as I proceed in the world of Judaism, I see that there are a lot of people who study and a lot of people do the mitzvahs, but the whole concept of Emunah is lacking in them. And in my opinion, if you have Emunah, then the other things are easy. Without Emunah, it's just another subject that you study in school. You know? There are some very great intellectuals, you know, that have good lives, you know, philosophers, linguists, but they don't have Emunah. And without Emunah, it's not religion. But what is Emunah if it's not intellectual? So if it's not intellectual, it must come from the body in some way. As opposed to the Osea world, it must be like Yetzirah world. And surprisingly, if you do the full gematria of Emunah, it comes out to 315, and it's the same as Yetzirah. But there's another story. Let's do a little gematria of Emunah. Emunah itself is 102. So if we take the Aleph off, because the Aleph, I was going to do a video today again about the Aleph. The Aleph is everything. All you need to know is the Aleph. We're going to do that. We're going to separate that because the game is too difficult with all the books. Just take a look at the Aleph for a while. And then, that's the Aleph, that's the Kedusha, that's the one. So the din of Emunah is Aleph, and then that's the Kedusha. Mem, Vav, Nun, Hey. That comes out to be 101. That number we were talking about the other day. 101 is like the gematria of Adam Kadmon, of Aleph Kuf. It's also the number of shofar blasts. It's also the name of the angel Mikael. The din of Emunah is Mikael. And I said that from that area of Rod Lowe comes Cain. And I said that Mikael had intercourse with Hava. Because Samuel is also Mikael, and they had intercourse with Hava that produced Cain, and this is all in the Rod Lowe area. Mikael is in the Rod Lowe area as the din of Emunah. And Aleph, who is Hashem itself in its highest aspects, is the Kedusha up there. So now, let's just do Emunah fully spelt out, which we said was 315. And so, if I minus, now that's, so the 315 is the full spelling. I minus the Aleph, which was 111, because that's the Kedusha. So the Din letters, the Din gematria is 315 minus 111. That's 204. That's Zadok. The Zadok. The Zadok is up there. The Zadok is in Emunah. Why? Because isn't there a phrase? A Zadok shall live by his faith. Did you ever hear that phrase in Judaism? A Zadok shall live by his faith. Why? Because a Zadok is in Emunah. And in Radlo is the din of Emunah. And Radlo is faith. It's all faith. So how do you get faith into the body? It's in movement. It's not in the intellect. So what's the closest thing, the closest propelling thing? And for me, it's the sexual inclination. Not the sexual inclination, but the sexual drive, the sexual potency within a man. And this sexuality, this energy that runs up and down the center pillar, leads into this highest realms of Radlo, the head beyond the head, beyond the intellect of the known, because it's the same thing like when a young man gets an erection out of nowhere. It's beyond his knowledge. I'm going to talk about some deep sexual things, personal sexual things. And the transformation of the sexual energy. I'm going to start using a word, transmography. Transmogrify. Well, I have to, because it's the magical transformation. You know, it's a magical transmuting. It's a transmutation of sexual energy that brings into religiosity. One has to understand that sexual energy itself is emunah, faith. It's beyond intellect. Sexual energy is beyond intellect, beyond attraction. It's like the concept of love at first sight. It's beyond intellect. This month that we're in now, this Adar 2, is to bring down this concept of Adar 1. Because as I showed you, Adar 1 is Radlo. So we're bringing down Radlo into the physical world, and we do that by understanding the sexual drive and component within man. Now, when I was a child, I used to think about sex all the time. When I became whatever the word is. See how there's blockages and me talking about it? I used to think about sex all the time as a teenager. It was constantly on my mind. I couldn't sleep at night unless I had an orgasm. As I got to be a little bit older, I kind of transmuted that a little bit into tennis when I became a tennis player. And I didn't have the sex because I needed it for my own energy. Later on, after being a tennis player, I used that sexual energy for my studies. So in other words, all these studies, which you're seeing here, all this work and intellect is a transmutation, a transmogrification of sexual energy. One of the reasons I'm able to study all the time, day and night for 20 years, is because of this. For those who understand what this is that the sperm goes up into the head, and then usually when one has external orgasms, it goes out. But here it's locked, and it comes back down. So this is the Kundalini channel of up and down energy. Not going out this way, or not by cutting the hair going out that way. So it's a lock cycle. And this is how I'm able to discover areas that haven't been seen, because it's my transmutation of sexual energy. This sexual energy is of the highest level, and that's what makes man. How to use that sexual energy. And that's why the first commandment in the Torah is, be fruitful and multiply. It has to do with one's sexual components. See? Now, using that sexual energy, instead of dissipating that sexual energy, is the secret of all physical things. That's what Tantra is. That's what a sadhu is. That's what, the whole secret is. That's what a tzaddik is. That's what priests do. They use their personal, instead of having a channel for their own sexual outlet, their sexual outlet is the community. It's a beautiful transformation of energy. The lack of faith is when one dissipates their sexuality. If you do not dissipate your sexuality, you will not have a problem with faith. It's the lack of body heat, so to speak. So I'm going to be getting into this more and more, because this is the real secret. This is a bodily Judaism, a transformation of the sexual energy, which is so obvious because that's why Jewish man has a bris. It's so obvious, you see. And there are three components to the bris. Why? Because in Radlo, in the area of faith, the head of faith, there are the three highest Sephirot of Atik Yomin, Keta Hokmah and Bina of Atik Yomin. And that's the head of faith. And in my opinion, up there with the three, it's also the three levels of how one makes a aleph with a yud on top, a vav in the middle, and a yud on the bottom, which is a three component. So the aleph, which is one, is three. And that three is made up of two, which would be Hokmah and Bina, and the center, which would be the Vav, which is Keta. And that Vav has six. And in psychoanalysis, six is sex. But that Vav is six, are the 6 words of the Shema. and Bereshis. And the Vav itself as a phallic symbol. So the whole thing is sexual. And faith has to do with sex. And it's beyond the intellect, beyond the yes and the no, beyond the reading and even the speaking. And as I've shown, it's the level of Mikhael and of the Zadok. And the Zadok shall live by his faith.